statements showing my financial destruction while they told everyone she was fine. Photos from her hospital stays that proved she was sick when they claimed she was at dance class. Winifred's eyes got wider as she flipped through each page. She said she needed time to review everything and build a strategy, but this was more documentation than most clients ever provided. She'd call me in a few days with a plan. The next morning, my phone rang while I was staring at the coffee maker, and the caller ID showed the hospital's main number. Xanthi Ward from the Social Services Department introduced herself quickly and said she was calling about an internal review they were conducting. She explained that during a routine audit, they'd found a note in Pia's file about us refusing a kidney donation from a family member. The note was dated 3 years ago and signed by someone in administration, but she couldn't share more details because of the ongoing review. She said they take documentation errors very seriously, especially when it involves organ donation, and asked if I had any records about this supposed refusal. I wonder what's really going through the narrator's mind right now with all these people suddenly appearing to help after everything fell apart. The hospital calling about an internal review and finding mysterious notes seems awfully convenient timing. I told her I'd never refused anything, and that I just learned about the donor myself, and she went quiet for a long moment before saying someone would be in touch soon. 3 days later, I was washing dishes when I heard pounding on my apartment door, and through the peephole I could see my parents standing in the hallway. My dad was holding flowers, and my mom had what looked like a casserole dish, and they kept knocking harder when I didn't answer. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 while they shouted through the door about wanting to explain and make things right. The dispatcher stayed on the line while 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes, and I watched through the peephole as they escorted my parents away from my door. The officers took my statement about the situation with Pia and the lies my parents had told, and one of them gave me paperwork for filing a restraining order. I went to the courthouse the next morning and filled out every form they gave me, explaining how my parents had hidden a kidney donor from my dying daughter. Meanwhile, Dilly had started seeing a therapist twice a week to deal with her guilt about everything. She'd text me after each session with updates about what they'd discussed, always coming back to how she could have saved Pia if she'd known the truth. Her messages would arrive at random times, sometimes at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep, filled with apologies and what-ifs that made my chest tight. The therapist had her writing letters to Pia that she'd never send, trying to process the grief and anger she felt toward my parents. 2 weeks after we buried Pia in the small cemetery off Oak Street, I met with Rhea Cruz at her office near the hospital. She was the grief counselor the hospital had recommended, and she had a calm way of talking that didn't feel fake or rehearsed. She let me rage for the first 20 minutes about my parents and what they'd done, then helped me understand that wanting revenge was completely normal. She warned that revenge wouldn't bring Pia back though, and that I needed to focus on surviving each day first. We scheduled weekly sessions, and she gave me her cell number for emergencies, which I programmed into my phone but hoped I'd never need. That same afternoon, Winifred called with news about the case she was building. She was sending preservation letters to my parents' email providers and phone companies to make sure they couldn't delete any evidence. She explained that these letters legally required the companies to save all data related to my parents' accounts, including deleted messages and call logs. She'd also subpoenaed their financial records to see if they'd made any payments to the hospital staff or anyone else involved in hiding the truth. The restraining order hearing happened 2 weeks later at the county courthouse, and my parents showed up with their own lawyer in an expensive suit. They sat on the opposite side of the courtroom while I explained to the judge about the lies they'd told to keep Pia from getting a kidney. I showed the judge printouts of the emails Dilly had shared, the ones where my parents described Pia's fake recovery and perfect health.